Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Megaman X7. In the last part we got X back into the fray because we saved half of the Reploids, and now it's time for Brideborski stage, which is easily the most unique of this set.
Brideborski!
Time for our ride bike stage. Oh no, a time bomb was set on the course. Oh no, a time bomb has been set on the course. You know how to use a ride chaser, right? Use the X button to speed up and the square button to use the buster. There's no time, hurry! Alright, so our goal this time around is to go around this very long but looping track and find all 20 time bombs placed throughout it as well as the 16 Reploids. Thankfully, like the ride chasers in X4 onwards, you do have a buster attack, and it actually has some decent use here because the enemies are placed in such a way that they're either right in front of bombs or in front of Reploids. Though you can just hold the X button to speed up and ignore everything. With that said, if you want an easy time, don't do that because it's very easy to surpass basically any given item if you're doing it too long. Also, a moment ago, you may have seen it on screen, I picked up an orange orb-looking thing. That was this game's weapon tank. So now I can use that to restore my weapon energy in the case I ever get too low. You do have a timer, of course, and when that timer is up, you lose a life. You start right back at the beginning with 20 bombs remaining, I believe, and all the Reploids you've rescued still intact. So if anything, I could recommend doing this track in a few different ways, where you go for all the Reploids first and grabbing as few bombs as possible, then going back around for, say, the W tank or the hard tank around here, and then the bombs. Only problem is this jump here can be a little bit hard to do that with, because sometimes you'll miss the 2 bombs or the Reploid there, purely because the controls just kind of said no. Not the biggest fan of this stage, honestly. It's unique, yes, and I applaud it for at least being something different than what we've seen thus far. But it's, clunky. There's where the heart tank is for this stage, by the way. Kinda need to just wait for it to appear right there, right then. Other lyrics from Jet Set radio music. And now we're back at the point where it loops. With that said, as you can see, I did miss 6, so now I have to loop all the way back around. Thankfully, this track is short enough as long as you go max speed that it doesn't take too long to go around. I'd say if you're intermittent with your uses of the X button to speed up, you can probably get around this track 2 or 3 times. Maybe even 4 if you go max tilt the entire time without the timer running out. Again, the biggest danger here is probably these next 2 bombs right here because, yeah, I had no way of moving left there. That locked my controls for some reason. Ugh. This stage is awkward. With that said, if you want to immediately take one of your own lives because you're, say, running low on time, otherwise, that pink magnet area back there is really good for that because that drains your health at a pretty good pace. But I'm running out of time, so I need to get the hell into dodge and try to find those last 3 bombs ahead of time. And to be honest, I forget if I make it in time. I can see where I am on the timeline for the video, yes, but there's a jump cut there, and I can't tell if that's because of me cutting out a load time or maybe cutting out a death at this point, honestly. So at this point, I'm going to be just as surprised as you are. 1, 2, ooh, wait, maybe this will be close, this will be close. Come on, baby, let's do it! Ooh, 1 second remaining.
So you're the big cheese.
Big cheese? How dare you call me that? I'm the head honcho for crying out loud!
Okay, whatever you say, I order you to disband this motorcycle gang.
Motorcycle gang? Why, you've gone too far. I'll make you pay for this with a duel!
Alright, Brideborski is another boss that used to give me trouble a lot as a kid, and it's partially because his weakness basically does no HP to him even with 0. Attack-wise, though, he's got that little invincibility thing he just did where he charges around trying to run into you, and if he grabs you with that, he'll then do some damage and then drag you into the laser wall, which is an active hitbox, to do more damage. And I believe when he's later on in his health, he'll become enraged like this otherwise, and spin around like this in a circle, spitting out his search wheel weapon, I believe is what that's called. He can also shoot those out in, I think, certain rows when he's just standing still, and I think those ones will home in on you slightly. Easily the best attack for him to do, especially if you have X's buster parts from the Dr. Light capsule, is for him to stand still wherever he is and point at the center, in which case he's going to spawn this giant, almost laser tether, which will spin around in circles from there on. He's doing it right now, actually. This leaves him super open for attack, so if you have the X-Buster parts, go all out, because that's probably going to be your best time to get any damage in, because admittedly, a problem with Brideborski is that he spends a decent chunk of the fight invincible due to him just charging around. Also notably, I believe there are some runner bombs around the arena just throwing bombs into the center, but they can't reach further than the weird trapezoid in front of them, so you don't have to worry about them too much. If you're in any of the corners or in the center, they're basically a non-threat. Also, he is very loud. This game's bosses have a lot of quotes that they like to scream, and honestly, while that's good for tells, they sometimes just love to blow their mic out. Although Flame Heinard is always going to be the king of that, as we saw the last part. But that's right, Boarski. His stage can be kind of annoying, especially if the controls aren't working with you. But the boss itself is pretty simple, and the stage itself is, if you get all the bombs, admittedly very short. And for beating it, we get Moving Wheel. Ejects a surface roving disc, perfect for sweeping up ground enemies. It does low damage, and I never use it. Honestly, I don't use any of the special weapons in this game, barring maybe certain charge shots at best. Zero, on the other hand, gets an ability known as Zankorin, where if you press triangle while standing completely still, he'll just rev up a Beyblade out of his Z-Saber, more or less, which will travel forward. Problem is, it's low damage, and you can't use any other special abilities while it's on screen, so it's kind of limited in use in my general experience. With that said, I grabbed every Reploid in that stage as X for the specific purpose of giving him the HP and weapon ups, because he's going to need as much of that as he can moving forward. Because obviously, since he just joined, not only does he not have any heart tanks, his base HP and power and upgrade chipset is completely naked. So, it's time for us to start investing in him. Again, I have had playthroughs where what I try to do is just grab as many generic Reploids as I can, saving the upgrade and HP update ones for when I get X, just to see what can happen. And again, since on New Game Plus, the Reploids all respawn because that's how you get more upgrade chips, you can theoretically just power grind one character across multiple New Game Pluses just to have whatever the max amount of HP and weapon energy is in this game. I'm honestly not certain of that. I don't think I've ever done it.
You're something else.
Who goes there? Show yourself!
Don't you find the Maverick Hunters to be a bit too much of a nuisance?
Maverick Hunters? Well, sure. I don't like them, but they've got nothing to do with us. We'll do as we please, hunters or no. Get lost! I don't even know who the heck you are.
Me? Let's just say I'm a sympathizer with your cause.
I wonder who that could be. It's also not like that was the exact same voice actor as Soldier Stone Kong, by the way. With that said, time for us to head to Snipe Anteater stage. Arguably my least favorite, just for some disorientation reasons.
Snipe Anteater!
I should note, by the way, Brideborski was voiced by Ryan Dries, the same person who did Splash Warfly. What a strange place. Terrible for radar transmissions, too. Our data can't tell us much. You're on your own. Cool. Thanks, Alia. Very helpful. We've located the DNA core energy. Former generation samurai actually go through the wall. Alright, so what she means by that, and this is why I brought Axel into this stage, despite me liking going X0 for the most part, that samurai-type mechanoid can be used to transfer through certain walls, and it also has some pretty good defenses, in my experience. We're going to need to use that a lot to get some of the Reploids in this stage. Meanwhile, Snipe Anteater, by the way, upcoming, is voiced by Jeff Manning, who I think was some character in one of the King of Fighters games. I think he was Bifrost in ZX Advent. Otherwise, my memory... Oh, no, I think he's Shaft from the original Symphony of the Night, if memory serves. And I probably should lampshade this as well, because it's very obvious, though, in that last cutscene. Red in this game is voiced by Barry Gajerd, I think? Gajerdy? I forget how to pronounce the last name. Who has been a couple people over the years, but easily the most famous character he's ever been is Barry Burton in the original Resident Evil. It's so goddamn good to hear him in something again, even if it is not a very good game. Either way, Snipe Anteater stage otherwise only really gets its mechanics starting from here. We got orange panels. I found some new info. Looks like you've been transported to a zero-gravity environment. Floating switches can send you to the rear area. What she means by that is if you jump on one of these orange platforms into the weird little portal above, you flip to the bottom of it. And admittedly, the controls here are solid. You actually don't actively have them reversed. It's how it would figure otherwise. It's just that there's something about the camera angle being like that that throws me through a little bit of a loop, especially when it switches. With that said, more or less it's the same thing as the first half of the stage. You can transform into some of the samurais using A-Trance to walk through certain walls, and that's about it. With that said, there are some important things you're going to want to grab here, because not only is this where the heart tank is, this is where the light capsule for the stage is. Although, admittedly, this is probably the least useful, in my experience, light capsule in the game, but for 100%, I need to grab that, obviously. I can't jump high enough as a samurai to get up there. Oh well. Not for nothing, though, I like this song. It is kind of Battle Network-y, and I do appreciate that. Not quite the same amount of techno as one of those games would have, especially Battle Network 2. But I can appreciate a techno beat in a Mega Man game when I find one. Now, we want to go over to this particular platform and do it as X, if you're like me, because this is where you can grab one of these. Also, be careful about hovering near one of these. I know I've had a playthrough where for some reason I was able to hover mid-transport between sides of one of these panels, and it made me hover off the platform into the bottomless pit, which you can't usually just walk into, so I guess I was transporting while hovering, and it kept my horizontal axis moving, but not my vertical. And, yeah, that's a problem. Whoops. At least I swear that's happened. I think that happened while I was testing this very playthrough, honestly. Although I could just be confusing it with another game of similar qualities, which, to be frank, is very possible. I've played a lot of games of this roughness, to put it bluntly. But that said, easily the stage's biggest downfall, and honestly probably the biggest downfall of a lot of the stages in this game, despite them being fairly distinct from one another, I often can't really tell where I am in a stage unless I'm actively playing it. Like, if you just show me a screenshot of any given stage in this game, I can't tell you how far into a stage that is compared to, say, a Mega Man Zero game or a classic Mega Man X game. The environments in this game are just very bleak, even if they are varied in what they actually are. And, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. The one useful factor, admittedly, I know I brought this up as a problem before, I think even during Flame Heinard stage, that the pop-in for the enemies and the Reploids can have is that because the Reploids especially don't spawn in until you're super close to them, that does mean at least that enemies can't actively target them until you're super close to them. That especially comes into play with the samurai earlier in the stage who walks back and forth through one of the walls they can go through, like this one. They can't actively harm that Reploid because it doesn't spawn until you're basically right on top of it. So I guess that might be why the programming is like the way it is, but at the same time, yeah, it's still bad. Admittedly, it makes me question whether or not a 3D Mega Man game that's not like a Mega Man Legends style can really work. There's definitely potential for it. But with the way this game is, at least with its level design, it leaves little faith in me for a true 3D Mega Man game that's not like an RPG or Legends, which I guess is kind of an RPG mix as it is. At the end of the day, I suppose the best way to put it is more experimentation is needed. And I don't think I've really actively played many 3D fan-made Mega Man projects outside of maybe 8-Bit Deathmatch. Either way, we want to go to the bottom of this giant platform right over here, because that's what leads us to our light capsule for this stage. As well as an extra Reploid. And hey, I'm never going to say no to one of those. Never imagined I'd meet you here. I wish I could have given you these head parts in person. Although weak, they possess an item-attracting force. I hope it helps. So essentially, what this does is it makes it so that if any drops are dropped by enemies, be it life energy, weapon energy, or extra lives, it just zooms right into you. X4 head parts, these ain't. The weird thing about the Dr. Light capsules in this game, too, is that they almost seem to revert back to they're a recording of Dr. Light in certain cases, but less so in others. Compare that to X5 and 6, where it's implied to maybe an AI. They're very indecisive about the light capsules, to put it lightly. That's not an intentional pun for once, I swear. The light capsule is also located super near the end of the stage, too, and admittedly, as is kind of a problem with these stages, due to the fact there's no boss shutters, the stages also kind of end almost out of nowhere at times, it feels, even if some of them drag on forever. Time for the boss.
Oh, splendid! Even better than expected.
How long must this madness go on?
Let me ask you, how long has this madness been going on? The annals of history contain endless records of war. The madness will never end.
You're wrong. We can create a world without war. Utopia is not just a dream.
You can't build a utopia on top of the graves of rebels like myself.
But even so, I must follow my beliefs.
Interesting little dialogue you can get there with Zero is that they actually kind of foreshadow almost the original intended plot for Mega Man 01. Either way, Snipe Anteater is weak to Brideborski's weapon, of course, but it doesn't really do much damage. In fact, it barely even stuns him. Honestly, I feel as if the X-Buster is his weakness. With that said, Snipe Anteater is easily one of the most annoying bosses in the game, as either he's gonna send a giant spiral around the column that he's sometimes completely on the bottom of, and therefore you can't hit him on, by the way, because he moves very randomly. He can send little ant drones out that if you get too close will act like proximity mines and therefore explode. He can send just straight up homing missiles on his out of his back when he spawns that cannon that he just did. And I think he can summon, he summons sentry guns that basically act like funnels at a Gundam that just move near you and try to shoot you. Otherwise, I think he'll just try to lick you with his anteater tongue, but I seldom ever see him do this attack. And when he does that, I think he holds on to you and needs to mash to escape. I hate this boss fight. Sometimes he's super aggressive and kills me. Other times he just does nothing, hides on the bottom, and if I position myself right, the charge shot can still reach him, making him an active non-threat. He is the most all-over-the-place boss fight in this game, in the most literal of senses at times. And yeah, I hate this boss fight. I never look forward to doing this one. Mind you, I never look forward to playing this game, period, but that's neither here nor there in this case, considering I kind of have to for what I want to do. But thankfully, now he's dead, and we get probably one of the more useful special weapons just for general use in stages. It's just that since I usually fight this boss so late in the game, it doesn't really get a chance to do much with it. For doing this, we're going to get Homing Torpedo. No, I'm just joking. We're not going back to that. It's Sniper Missile. With that said, it's functionally identical. This weapon launches an advanced homing missile. It homes in on enemies, plain and simple. If you're playing as Zero instead, you get Heijin, I believe, where you jump and press the triangle button to shoot out a homing projectile that's super awkward to hit with. In fact, I'd argue it's one of the worst special weapons in the game. Yeah, there's just really nothing positive I can say about Snipe Anteater. I hate him, I hate his boss fight, I hate his weapon. Not a very... Well, no, I like his weapon. I hate his weapon for Zero, more accurately. It's just kind of a lump sum Zero stage for me. Thankfully, we do go on to one of my favorite boss fights from here. Only problem is that to do that, I have to go through easily my least favorite stage in the game, period. Which I think I may have said like 2 or 3 times already by now. There's a lot about this game that I don't like. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 6, more Mavericks. Again, it's a Mega Man game. It's very samey through the most of it. See you guys then.